Hey folks, I hope you're all doing well. I'm looking to discuss Chiron and its role in our astrological natal charts today because it's important to see where we've been fundamentally wounded and what we can do to head towards healing. The conventional wisdom around Chiron, the astrological conventional wisdom around Chiron is that it can never be healed. And that's quite possible, but I'm sure that there's at least a few people out there who have healed their Chiron wounds to a certain degree. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But what I want to do today is I want to give a brief general feeling from my White Newman Tarot cards. I want to discuss Chiron through the zodiac signs, through the houses as well. And then I want to end with the uncertain oracle. I want to finish off with some advice from the universe, from our guides, from ancestors on what we can do, generally speaking, to heal our Chiron wounds. So I'm going to shuffle just a bit to give us an opener from the universe. So the first thing we got, if I can get rid of the glare, sorry, there we go, is the Star. And that's going to be in reverse. This is someone who maybe refuses to heal. Maybe, or you don't know how to heal, might be a better way to describe this. Chiron is about a wound that is next to impossible to heal ever completely, according to traditional astrological guidance. And this might be not knowing how, and the first step to healing is knowing that you have a wound to be healed to begin with. A lot of people refuse to see it. Acknowledging, this is the King of Cups, acknowledging how emotional this conversation is a huge part of it. The King is also about being the ultimate master of emotions, doing stuff, material possessions, that kind of thing. In this case, this is about being in ultimate control of, but also not allowing emotions to overwhelm us. So this is a highly emotionally charged conversation when we don't know how to heal ourselves. Conflict. This is the Seven of Wands. Yes, it is. And I wish I could get rid of the glare. I guess we'll eventually get there. These are not matte cards. But I see the potential here for when we're not in an emotionally prepared spot to handle a really hard conversation about our deepest wounds, that we tend to get into the mindset of we're going to fight other people and possibly make fun of other people's wounds, mock them, and maybe in some cases feel like we are head and shoulders above others. It comes from a place of insecurity because everyone has a wound in Chiron that needs healing. And if we can approach it from that particular angle, I think that we're on our way to being more emotionally prepared to heal ourselves. I wish that showed up better. This is such a beautiful card. Does it show up on camera okay? I wish it did. I will have citations for this particular deck at the end of my little slideshow that I've put together for this particular reading. Let me get that going and I'll be right back. So let's go. There's my title card. And let's talk about how Chiron appears in the zodiac. If you want to take a look at where your Chiron appears, you can pull up an astrological natal chart on something like astro.com, astro-seek.com. Also, Cafe Astrology has a really good birth chart generator, if you will. So there are 3 sites where you can get your astrological natal chart and see where Chiron appears. So the first one I want to talk about is Chiron in Pisces. I pulled the Six of Cups, the Eight of Swords, and the Queen of Pentacles here. So right away, this tells me that this is about the inner child going through some deep wounds, not being able to see very clearly the way forward, having to use their intuition, and sometimes they may struggle to trust their intuition. And in fact, this is about learning to trust the universe when their experiences have taught them to distrust the universe. They attempt to protect others as best as they can, but sometimes even that can be misguided by themselves and misjudged by others. And by the way, I'm giving a very brief rundown on the zodiac signs that transit through Chiron. You'll need to do a look. If you want more information, I'd be happy to do a reading for you, but you can also do your own research online. There are a lot of different places, a lot of astrological blogs that talk about Pisces and Chiron, Aries and Chiron, that kind of thing. And all these astrological blogs are going to have a different take on that particular zodiac sign as it transits through Chiron. But there is Pisces and its inner wound. There's more to it, just like there's more to all these other zodiac signs. I'm just giving a brief overview. With Chiron in Aquarius, you've got the Hermit, the Six of Wands in reverse, and the Ten of Wands in reverse. A very deep burden that's felt in isolation, and that's basically people around you celebrating, but you don't want to be part of the celebrations at all, and yet you do, and it's a burden at the same time. This is where Chiron in Aquarius struggles to be with others and struggles to celebrate their accomplishments with others. They want to celebrate, they want to hang out and talk about what they did and all that stuff, but they might feel like it's a bit prideful, for instance, and they hold back. There's also the problem of forever wanting to be with others, but not wanting to get involved. And getting involved becomes a tremendous burden on them. Okay, so that's Chiron in Aquarius. With Chiron in Capricorn, we've got the King of Cups in reverse. We have the Queen of Pentacles, and we have the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. Chiron in Capricorn struggles to feel recognized for their hard work. They may do a lot of really hard work in secret, want to be acknowledged for that kind of thing, and aren't, and they struggle emotionally with not being recognized, with not being seen. They're often overwhelmed with their emotions when it comes to wanting to be recognized. They're often overwhelmed with their emotions when it comes to being in the workplace. This gives me the kind of sensation where these are the folks who go to the bathroom and cry in the stall alone, and then check themselves in the mirror, leave, and don't let anyone know that they're suffering horribly behind the scenes. But they keep pushing on and keep hurting while they do so. With Chiron and Sagittarius, we've got the Page of Wands in reverse. We have the Hierophant and the Queen of Wands. These folks want to take action in some form. They want to start something new for themselves, but something holds them back. It's difficult for these folks to get in touch with their emotions, to do stuff in accordance with their intuition, in accordance with their feelings, with where their heart takes them. And they struggle to do what the universe wants them to do. They have trouble enjoying a belief system, believing that that belief system exists and isn't just there for other people. They also tend to struggle with a sense of purpose for their own lives. Let's talk about Chiron in Scorpio. Those folks have Judgment in reverse. They have the Black Numen in reverse, and that is an oracle card. In that particular case, this is where it's almost sure that some kind of situation, some kind of darkness might take over almost sure that it might take over. And that is right in line with Chiron, the wounded healer. It always feels like it's almost a losing battle, like you're just about to lose your grip. This is about losing faith in love. Or choosing not to love others because they've been so badly wounded that they say that falling in love or loving other people as friends, chosen family, blood family, that kind of thing, that it's too much of a risk. I note that those folks, Chiron and Scorpio, has the lovers in reverse. And this is an incredibly painful one. For a lot of folks, these are failed partnerships. These folks may be in abusive relationships. They may be, unfortunately, the abuser in some other relationships. Maybe not so much. But this might be a tendency to find themselves in really harmful romantic relationships. And not just romantic, but family and friend kind of relationships too. This is a loss of trust in everyone. These folks might like to push away people. They may say, I hate being around people, and it's speaking out of woundedness, and they may laugh about it in conversation, but it's no laughing matter, really. Sometimes these wounds come from a past lifetime. With Scorpio being in the planetary sign of Pluto, that speaks to me of death and rebirth, and that suggests to me of a past life. That suggests to me that there might have been a wound that happened in a past lifetime that got carried over into the present lifetime because it wasn't taken care of in the previous lifetime. When we talk about Chiron in Libra, you've got the Knight of Pentacles, the Ten of Cups in reverse, and the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. These folks are forever working towards balance, towards harmony within themselves, within others. Maybe they are going for a family situation that they don't feel like they can ever quite get to. They feel like they can't ever get to their happily ever after for some reason or another. The opportunity is always slipping out of their hands, and they might continue to do work on that. But something about their family situation, their happily ever after, never fully satisfies them. And it also ties back to a fundamental distrust in others, perhaps because there was some deep childhood trauma, or because there might have been some trauma from a previous lifetime. And by the way, I know I said with Chiron and Scorpio that this could be a past lifetime kind of injury for them especially, but I should say that for all of the zodiac signs that transit through Chiron, these wounds could have come from a past lifetime in which they were not healed, or the journey towards healing was not properly started. Okay? Let's continue. We're going through Chiron in Virgo. Those folks got the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. They got the Knight of Cups and the Page of Swords. So it's interesting with these particular cards in the White Newman Tarot, the Knight of Cups and the Page of Swords were looking at each other. The Page of Swords seemed to be ready to cut down the cup that the Knight of Cups was offering. And the Ten of Pentacles in reverse speaks to me about a legacy that gets taken away, that never gets up off the ground. These folks tend to struggle with the idea that they are permanently broken to some degree. And they may picture themselves really easily being in situations where they can be cut down verbally by an air sign, for instance. Or they imagine themselves in situations where people will think badly of them, possibly for no reason at all. With Chiron and Leo, we've got the Three of Cups, the Two of Cups, the Ten of Swords in reverse. Ten of Swords in reverse, immediately I start to think of self-sabotage, especially when it comes to relationships. Leos are highly relational kind of people. They like to be in groups. They like to be in romantic partnerships. These folks struggle for recognition in their desired social circles even while they try to chase it down. I hate to put it this way, but we may unfavorably call Chirons and Leos as tryhards because they're trying for social acceptance, so they may even call them simps or pick-me's because they're trying for something that they can't have. And those are really harsh words and phrases. Simps, pick-me's, those are really harsh words and phrases for these kinds of people who suffer with Chiron and Leo. I also notice that these people tend to unfavorably compare their talents specifically to other people's talents. I believe I've read on Tea and Rosemary that this Chiron in Leo often appears in celebrities' astrological charts. So there's often, that ties back to a deep insecurity. Once you get up onto the mountaintop, like you would see in a VIP, a lot of people ask, what on earth could you possibly be unhappy about? And those people still have a wounded healer within themselves that if they aren't actively trying to take care of it, they can have everything that they want in the world, but they still don't have healing. And it's just as sad for them as it is for us little people, if you will. Chiron in Cancer, this is the Devil in reverse. This is the Seven of Pentacles in reverse, and it's also the Hanged Man. It's the energy of never being able to move forward with your hard work, or perhaps all your hard work goes flying out the window. It dies. Seven of Pentacles is ideally about something growing to positive effect. And in this case, these folks feel like they can never get away from, let's say, for instance, Cancer's about the family. So these people, no matter what they do, no matter what they try to grow with their family, how they try to grow with their family, it never works. It never gets up off the ground. Something about the Devil, you remember the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith picture of the Devil, where those two people have chains, loosely tied, I should say. They can lift it up over their heads. They can do that. But with it in reverse, those people don't feel like they can ever just lift those chains up over their heads, as loose as they may appear to be. These folks, Chiron and Cancer folks, struggle to feel worthy of love. These folks may have grown up with emotionally immature parents who, Chiron and Cancer may have always been running for their parents' approval or for their guardians' approval, and they may have never gotten that. These folks unfortunately may feel like working on their Chiron wound is pointless because this Cancer points to origins, where we came from, and it can be really difficult to heal childhood wounds if we are running away from them, if we don't want to notice them to begin with. Here's my Chiron. I'll be open. This is my Chiron in Gemini. I and others have the Page of Wands in reverse, the Nine of Cups, and the Hermit. So this is about forever trying to do something new and cool, a cool new project, and it could make me and others happy, but I'm also, and others are also happiest in isolation, in seclusion, studying, introspecting, being in our own heads, seen in the Hermit. And there will be urges every once in a while to break free and do something new, like we see with the Page of Wands, but with it in reverse. That's a constant struggle, and it always feels exposing, speaking as a Chiron and Gemini, it always feels exposing when I try to do something new and I'm concerned that it's going to be taken badly. And as you can see, struggles to take action towards happiness because I and others live in my own head, and there is such a thing as introspecting and studying too much. And often I found myself and others with this particular Chiron struggling to reveal their true selves to the outside world because they and I are afraid of how we'll be accepted. Moving on to Chiron and Taurus, we have the Ten of Swords in reverse. We have the Two of Wands in reverse. We have the Page of Pentacles in reverse. So this is about wanting to start a new project that would bring material comfort, but the dreams don't seem to materialize, or they're a little bit too focused in their earth energy, and so fire energy doesn't exactly mesh well with earth energy. So having a dreamy aspect to them. I also associate the dreaminess with water. Water flows well with earth, but not so much not so much with fire. So this might be a case where they put out their own dreams because they feel like, with the Ten of Swords in reverse, that it's pointless. It's self-sabotage, if you will. They're often dissatisfied in life. They try to find security in the material, but as we all know, material stuff falls away. Everything burns, so to speak, when it comes to material items. And I don't mean material like literally burn, but we can't take our material stuff with us when we pass on into the next life. And these folks do their best to grip onto control when it comes to their material possessions, hoping that it gives them a sense of comfort. These folks are often deathly afraid of material loss, of losing everything. You might see these folks in hoarder kinds of situations, possibly. Honestly, this would be an issue with any Chiron sign, but I tend to associate hoarding with any Earth Chiron sign. So that's Taurus, that's Virgo, that's Capricorn. Last and definitely not least, we have Chiron and Aries, and this is a wound that isn't based in the social, isn't based in the material, but is based in the personhood. So these folks had the Knight of Swords, they had the Black Numen in reverse, and they have the Devil in reverse. These folks want to run towards healing, seen in the Knight of Swords, and they do their best to speed towards it. But something pulls and holds them back very much against their will. With the Black Numen in reverse, that's about feeling once again like, I can never get away from this, no matter how much work I do in therapy. And that's if Chiron and Aries notices that they are wounded and wants to talk about it. There is a degree of pride seen in the Emperor tarot card, for instance. I didn't pull the Emperor for this particular zodiac sign, but there's a great deal of pride in that particular tarot card, and that's what I associate with Aries, with the ram being in both of those entities. These folks are often dissatisfied with what they do in life. They may go for drugs to kind of get them out of the feeling of being alive, of feeling their wounds, for instance. They may chase drugs or other controlled substances in order to feel sane or to assist them with feeling worthless. These folks may feel that with this being a fire sign, they may sweep through stuff really, really quickly. And it takes introspection, not too much, by the way. It takes introspection to create a core self, and these folks often feel that they can't develop a core self. Again, even if they work on it in therapy, they may still be chasing that aspect of themselves. So, we also need to take a look at where Chiron transits through houses. The thing is, you take the star Chiron, you take the zodiac signs, and then you take the houses, and then you start to get a much more thorough picture of how Chiron moves through your personal life and also through others' lives, so that you can better recognize what you can do to heal them while you are healing yourself. And ideally, you can come in contact with people who want to heal you, just like you want to pass on healing to others, okay? So we'll move somewhat quickly through this. When Chiron appears in the first house of self, this wound is on display for everyone to see, and it sucks because a lot of people really want to hide that. Not totally, but they don't want to broadcast it to the world. With Chiron appearing in the first house, this sucks. And unfortunately, you can often see this wound on display soon after you meet this person. They may blurt out within a couple of minutes of you meeting them for the first time. They may blurt out, "Oh, my parent died. Oh, my pet died when I was young and I never recovered." Like, they'll be talking about their wounds at a very early stage in your connection with them. Okay? With the second house of value, of monetary possessions, they never feel satisfied with what they have, and they don't like how small their bank account is, even if it's huge, larger than any of us could ever imagine. They may still not be satisfied with it. They may still think that it's way too small for them. And they struggle with personal security as well. With the third house of intellect, these folks struggle with feeling dumb. They are afraid that other people see them as stupid. And these folks also can struggle with their emotions because they want to be in their minds. They don't want to be in their emotions. With the fourth house of origins, Chiron dealt them a really, a really awful wound when they were born into a house that may have not been loving at all. These family members may not have wanted this particular child who was born into this fourth house, or I should say who has Chiron transiting through this fourth house. And these folks may struggle having emotional attachments to anyone, to maybe an adoptive family, to romantic partnerships, to chosen family, to friends, that kind of thing. Again, excuse me, I have said with previous zodiac signs that emotionally immature parents have a large role to have a large role to do with folks who are born with their fourth house having Chiron in it. And you'll often see videos, and I've seen Reddit boards of these people who are estranged from their parents. And I wonder how many of those folks, if they were to look at their natal charts, would have Chiron transiting through their fourth house. With the fifth house of creativity, we've got another family wound coming through. These folks have trouble expressing themselves creatively, maybe because the people who raised them maybe kind of shit all over their creative endeavors. They said that wasn't good enough, or that looked dumb, or something like that. And getting in touch with their inner child is a real struggle, can be a real struggle with people who have Chiron transiting through their fifth house. These people, I also noticed, might struggle with fertility issues. This might be very rare. For Chiron in the fifth house to be appearing for someone who struggles with fertility issues, for people who want children but can't physically have them. That does occasionally happen. With the sixth house of work, with Chiron transiting through that particular house, you have folks who might have a chronic disease, for instance. This isn't about just work. This is about our daily habits and that kind of thing. These folks often feel misunderstood and nobody cares. They feel like nobody cares about them in their workplace, like their boss gives other people promotions before they give anyone else promotions. These folks might feel way overburdened at work, and they may have suicidal ideation sometimes because their workload is just so heavy. Excuse me. But they often feel like their labor is worthless, pointless, or undervalued. Like no one cares about the results about their work. Great job, do more, that kind of thing. With the seventh house of partnerships, these people may want a relationship, but they can never settle down, or they feel like nobody ever wants to settle down with them. These folks also tend to fear closeness. And I also notice that these folks may, if they go into business with a partner, for instance, not a romantic partner, a business partner. They may experience being stolen from. They may experience an unequal or unfair business partnership. Really kind of rough. Those people might be part of the incel movement. These people have Chiron transiting through their 7th house of partnerships, and the people in the incel movement often would never talk about their wounds and say, I have an internal wound. Those people tend to externalize their wounds and say it's everybody else's fault. And for a lot of people with Chiron, it is easier to externalize their wounds instead of saying, it's something to do with me. It's not to do with other people. Again, we're all walking around with our own wounds in Chiron. It's not just us. Or I should say, it's not just the individual. And sometimes we can kind of pigeonhole ourselves. I hope I'm making myself understood, okay? With the 8th house of transformation, this is about someone who may have experienced the loss of a parent at an early age, or the loss of someone really, really dear to them, possibly the death of a sibling, someone who died early, and that created a forever wound that is a real struggle for them to heal from. These people may have also experienced sexual abuse, and even though death is something that we all go through, for instance, these folks may experience that as well. This is a really tough house to go through. In fact, let me just say that Chiron is just a generally tough thing to go through, but I have a lot of compassion for the folks who have to go through this particular house, with Chiron transiting through this house. When Chiron transits through the 9th house of journeys, these folks may have moved around all the time when they were younger, and since then they've never been able to put down roots and feel settled. They may be in a permanent nomadic kind of setting, and they hate it. But on the other hand, they feel restless when they don't move around. It's something that can never be satisfied within them. On a deeper level, these folks may go for a spiritual pathway but never fully identify with it. They may chase that sensation that I am faithful, I am religious, I am spiritual, for instance, and they would never admit this necessarily because it might be seen as taboo to talk about with the larger faith community. But these people feel like they're not religious, spiritual, faithful enough, no matter how hard they try. With the 10th house of ambition, even though they may be incredibly successful, a lot of celebrities may have this particular Chiron in their 10th house. These folks may never feel successful, even though they may be at the top of a mountain. They may struggle with other people recognizing their achievements, and that might have been something that they suffered in childhood. Again, like in the 4th house, these people may have been told that whatever they did wasn't good enough. These people may have had extremely demanding parents who had their kids with good grades, playing 6 instruments, acting, dancing, singing, being doctors, that kind of thing. These folks with Chiron in the 10th house may have had parents who expected the world of their kids and didn't necessarily allow their children to just be kids. So with the 11th house of society, a lot of these folks struggle to express themselves in such a way that they have their individual selves on display. They want to conform, but then they also have this itch to show themselves off, and they admire people who can be individuals themselves. On the other hand, they may cancel culture, if you will. They may cancel people who do display their individual selves. They may make fun of them. They may mock them, for instance, for being their individual selves while realizing, I want to be like that, but never being brave enough. They don't feel brave enough. They don't feel strong enough to actually be there. On the flip side, these people may be utter societal hermits, if you will. They may say, fuck people, I hate people, just like we had in an earlier house. They may just reject society altogether, And if they are in a social situation, they may be almost completely silent, and you might be able to tell that they're really struggling to be in the group, to even sit at the dinner table, for instance. Last and not least, and here is my Chiron in my house, in my 12th house of secrets. These folks and I struggle to discuss our Chiron wounds, and we do a lot to hide it. We may struggle with mental illnesses, and these wounds may come from a past lifetime. Also, I should note that these folks can be deeply psychic. And by the way, everyone is psychic to one degree or another. But with the 12th house, there's a lot of psychic ability, and sometimes there's some stuff that comes through psychically that I and others don't necessarily want to hear or hold in our hearts. And sometimes we're asked to hold something in our hearts and our minds that will come out at a later date, but for the meantime, it just sucks. So I have put my Chiron in my house as an example here. So my Chiron is in Gemini in my 12th house, and I struggle to communicate with others when it comes to my deepest needs, desires, and dreams. And I do, and others do, a lot to hide those things, because it is deeply exposing for me. These folks and I can work towards healing by talking about what we need, what we desire, and what we dream about with individuals who have earned our trust, and by understanding that everyone who was ever born on Earth is walking around with a Chiron wound. So if you are wanting my citations, here they are. All my information for this presentation came from T and Rosemary. There is the link. They have a lot of discussion on Chiron in general. And also the tarot cards that I used for this particular reading are here in the White Newman Tarot deck, and I've linked it to where you can use it for free, but also you can follow the link on that particular web page to a spot where you can buy the deck if you want to buy it for yourself. So I'm going to close out with the Uncertain Oracle, because the Chiron wound has so much to do with uncertainty. Maybe it's good to have some closing words of wisdom from the universe, from our guides, from our ancestors, to see what we can do, not just to heal our wounds, but by extension, heal others. Maybe we can become a healing community. Let's do 4 from the bottom. I have Solar, and I know you can't see it, but it's a really pretty card. Can I? No. Maybe? Really pretty. I associate that with the Sun card. It's not necessarily, it has nothing to do with tarot, but it's definitely about happiness, bringing light to an area, exposing something, grief. And I know that looks like an abyss, the start of an abyss, for instance, bringing light, bringing healing, and eventually healing enough to find joy in spite of the grief that we've gone through. We are all walking around with a wound from Chiron. We all are. And if we can recognize that, if we can bring light, exposure to our wounds to others in safe and trusted communities, okay, just freely throwing out, spilling our guts, so to speak, not trauma bonding, although that can happen too. But spilling our guts to just everybody is harmful, not just to us, but to other people. Some people may not be ready to have this discussion. This is fractured, shining light on where we are broken, quite literally. Shining light on where we are fractured will bring healing. And another pretty card, we have hope. And I hope that eventually I can show this. Okay, that's fair enough. So by shining light on where in our souls we have grief, where in our souls we are broken, we can bring hope to ourselves. We can bring hope to each other, for instance. And we deserve this. Even if we are running away from our wounds, even if you have someone who's a try-hard, a simp, and again, I hate to use those phrases, those words. Even if you have someone who is full of bravado, seems to be on top of the world, knowing who they are, that they're still carrying around a Chiron wound, is a way to humble all of ourselves into realizing we're not alone, and if we can admit to ourselves that we're hurting, we're all hurting deeply, we'll be in a much better place. So folks, that was a discussion on Chiron. Again, you can find much more information if you look into your own astrological natal chart, and if you look at some astrological blogs, you can get a lot more information on this. This was just a brief overview. Y'all have a great day. I wish you great healing.